In 2008, Nia Brandenburg and Jeremy Wilhelm bought a pair of kuni pigs to keep as pets. They moved to Longbush in Wairarapa and began what they describe as a hobby farm, breeding other breeds of pigs for eating. Their pig production business eventually grew into a free-range breeding and finishing operation of heritage pork.
The movement from being a non-commercial hobby farm into a commercial farm has taken probably about 3 or 4 years really to make that transition. Because the market for our pork had to be small, because our supply was small, it actually took us quite a bit of time to build that up. So it's been a long process and one where we've had to find new ways of doing things. I've used my experience as a veterinarian, but I've also accessed information from overseas pig farmers that have done a similar transition, and even to commercial farmers themselves. We've come from a background of owning pigs first as pets, liking them as an animal in and of themselves. So we come from a very different perspective about the values we put upon those pigs, and we knew by valuing them as animals, as sentient beings, we knew we had to farm them true free range, 100% pastured. The pigs that we have, the breeds we have, are special. They are heritage breeds that have been developed for living out on pastures. So it's very key. It all interplays.
We typically wean from 8 to 10 weeks, and then we transition the mothers first into their paddocks and run them with a boar immediately. And then we wait a few days. We leave the piglets, actually growers, at that stage. We leave them in their paddock where their mother was, and then in a couple days we come and pick them up and we move them into what we call our grower paddocks. And they stay in the grower paddocks for up until they get about 70 kgs live weight. And then from that point, we then transition them to finisher paddocks. So the pigs are always in motion, depending on their various stages of life. When we wean, it's quite late compared to commercial standards, but because we are free range, we want to have our pigs just hitting the ground running. We wean at 8 to 10 weeks. They're well used to their grower ration. There's no check in their growth, and they just transition beautifully. Our group housing is typically these half water tanks that we get from various places, and basically I just get them, move them into the paddocks and cut them in half, and voila, you got 2 huts. They're absolutely brilliant for retaining heat. A layperson who'd come here would say this paddock's a mess, but we have a system of linear paddocks that we rotate the pigs on. And so these pigs will stay in here for a period of time. This particular paddock was one of the original paddocks that we settled, so consequently a lot of weeds came up in late winter. And I have these guys tearing up the paddock. I want them to tear this up so that I can reseed it properly. So they're gonna move the weeds for me. I don't have to spray or anything like that. And they'll probably be in here another 3 to 4 weeks, and then I move them on to a new pasture. We imported 35 flat-top farrowing huts from Booth Pig Equipment in the UK. We selected them based on the size of the actual hut, so it gives a good amount of space for an 8 to 10 week old piglet, you know, the whole litter and the mom. They're fully insulated. They're great for our colder winters as well as the hotter summers. Also the angle of the hut. Piglets, they can go off to the sides. The mothers can't go right up to the edge, so that allows a little bit of space. Right now, we're able to achieve pre-weaning mortalities of around 6%. The other key feature of these huts, you can see they've got these antenna-looking things. They're handy for me to then come along with the tractor, hook it onto the front loader of the tractor, and then move it around and just completely clear this area out in no time flat, really. Our sows are on a commercial grower ration. The sows can eat ad lib, meaning they can eat as much feed as they can consume in one day. And you get a lactating sow like this one here, she can consume up to about 14 kgs of feed a day. It also has the benefit as the piglets get older that they can then go to the hopper here and get feed. And that also helps, you know, obviously with their growth as well. We started off with a large black. It's a heritage breed from England. But once we went commercial, we recognized that we had to get an improvement in our feed conversions and growing rates. So then we introduced the Durocs into our herd. So not only do you get the improved growth rates from the Duroc themselves, but you also get that hybrid vigor when you cross them over with the large blacks and what we call black rocks. Heritage breeds are the breeds that have been bred for generations to withstand harsher conditions compared to commercial breeds, which are, you know, they're in really wonderful conditions, climate controlled, etc. So you don't have to focus on those particular attributes. You don't stick a white pig out in these conditions and hope to do well. You might notice that our pigs don't have nose rings. We like to have our pigs root in the ground. Actually, you can use their noses as a tool to help with your pasture management. They aerate the soil, they turn it up, they fertilize it as they go along. So as long as you incorporate those factors into your pasture management plan, it's actually going to enhance the soil.
Because we farm the way we do, it's a much more labor-intensive farming system. And also the breeds we've selected, they are not as quick growing and have as high a feed conversion ratio as the commercial bloodlines. So what we have to do is we have to target our market specifically for people that are looking for a higher value add, higher welfare standard pork. So not only do we choose our market more specifically, so we're not just supplying everyone, but we also have to supply at a higher price. The thing we've been most fortunate about is during this time where we've been building the farm up itself, the pork supply, there's been a movement among chefs and among people who go to restaurants to understand where their food comes from. It's been complete fluke. People have tried to do this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, and the market wasn't there. There's been a sea change about how people view the food they eat, and they want to know the provenance. They want to know how it was raised. And chefs have now come on board to understand that you need to use all of an animal, not just one single cut. So we've had this luck that as we're coming with our idea of a zero waste, make sure we use every bit of the pig and value it, so has customers, the potential customer base. So it's evolved together, and because of that, the past 5 years, it's just exploded. So even now in Auckland market, not just Wellington market, there's that ethos.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.